Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us for our webinar, The Impact of our Environment, of our Lifestyle on Hormone Health. My name is Dr. Elena Alawa. I was supposed to be hosting this webinar tonight with Mary Cornwell, who is a certified health educator. Maybe she'll be joining us shortly. She is in the sunny state of Hawaii, so maybe she has some connection problems. But today we're going to be talking specifically about hormones, and I'm going to be sharing my screen so we can start the presentation. As I'm presenting, please feel free to type in your questions in the chat, and then at the end of the presentation, we'll go through them one by one. So, first of all, I would like to, let's see if I'm able to. I would like to mention that this talk is strictly educational, that even though I am a physician, I am not your physician, and I am not aware of your entire personal medical history, as well as family medical history and risk factors that you already have. So anything that I'm saying is just a recommendation in terms of cleaning up our lifestyle to prevent all of these chemicals from negatively affecting our hormones. So this information is not meant to be prescriptive in any way. Heather's not here, so I'm going to skip this. About me, I have finished my bachelor's and then completed my doctor of osteopathy. So I'm a DO at the Michigan State University College of Osteopathic Medicine in 2006 in East Lansing in Michigan. And then I did my residency in internal medicine at Ingham Hospital in Lansing. I have since certified in internal medicine, functional medicine, and bioidentical hormone replacement therapy. And I now specialize in hormone health for both women and men, simply because hormones are what drive our entire existence. The desire for this webinar is not to scare and overwhelm you, but to bring you awareness, educate, inspire, and provide a proper framework for change. So if you are concerned about developing diabetes, Alzheimer's, or dementia and cancer, if you're struggling with chronic pain, if your pain is limiting your ability to participate in life, or perhaps you're trying to lose unwanted pounds around the middle core of the body, or you want a better mental clarity, then if you are struggling with skin problems, if you have food cravings, allergies, you have recurrent infections, you have autoimmune diseases, or you have problems with sleeping, then you are in the right place. So today we'll be exploring the toxins that could be impacting you in everything that I have mentioned so far. So watch out for warning signs. What are the warning signs? The symptoms that one will present to the doctor. Patients don't come in to the doctor with a diagnosis of urinary infection or Lyme disease. They come in with symptoms of heavy menses or extreme fatigue, headaches, loss of vision, um, difficulty with ability to ambulate, and so many others. So looking for these warning signs will send us back as physicians and healthcare providers to look for the root causes for these symptoms, as opposed to applying a prescription band-aid for every symptom that the patient presents with. So what are those toxins in our environment? There are quite many. Anywhere from fluoride in our toothpaste, diesel at our gas pumps, BPAs and phthalates in our water bottles and any kind of plastic bottles, lead. I'm not aware that there are any more lead-based paints anymore, but there could be old homes that had lead paints and that needs to be stripped down by specific companies that know how to deal with this. Also, mercury from fish contaminated with this element, over 4,000 other chemicals that are included in vaping or tobacco products, exhaust and pollution from the cars that we are driving, ammonia and manganese from contaminated alcohol beverages, pesticides or herbicides that are used on our lawns, flame retardants that we can find in our furniture, including carpets and couches, perchloride, contaminant that is used in dry cleaning. So it's always good to leave your products that you take for dry cleaning to off gas in the garage for maybe 3 to 4 days before you bring them into the house, as well as aluminum contaminants and parabens and plenty of other chemicals. And let's not forget the food pesticides and chemicals that our crops are being treated with in an attempt to prevent an infestation of weeds, and with the attempt of decreasing the amount of pesticides that are used if there are GMO crops. And we'll discuss this further. So a few facts about toxins. Back in 2007, there were 82,000 chemicals known in the marketplace, of which we were exposed to 127 chemicals on a daily basis. 200 of these chemicals are now probably present in our body unless we do a thorough evaluation of what are our exposures and elimination through the detoxing. And 95% of these chemicals have not been tested, especially in the US. They're not FDA required to be labeled as such. And for example, the European Union has banned 1,300 chemicals from use in cosmetics. Of these 1,300 chemicals, only 11 have been banned by the FDA in the United States. So it is contingent upon us to be judicious with reading labels and making sure that if we don't understand the name of a certain chemical on the product, well, just better put it on the shelf and leave it there. So what are we going to be covering in this presentation is explanations of what is actually a toxin, where do toxins come from, how do they impact our body, what is detox, what is detoxification, and how can we possibly detox, and what are the benefits of this detox, and specific tidbits on what you can do to decrease your toxic burden in your body. So what are toxins? Well, toxins are any kind of chemicals that are foreign to the body, not produced by the body, and yet they have a negative impact on the function of your neurotransmitters, your hormones, your gut function. Where could these toxins be coming from? They can come from pollution, indoor and outdoor, water pollution, and even water treatment with all kinds of chemicals in an attempt to kill certain bacteria, viruses, and parasites. And fluoride can actually be a toxin on the thyroid gland. Food. Crops are being treated with pesticides and insecticides, and therefore choosing the right foods is imperative to decrease the load or eliminate the exposure to pesticides and insecticides. Body care products, as I was mentioning, let's see if I'm able to do this. There you go. So body care products, as I was mentioning, the cosmetics that are loaded with all kinds of parabens. Hi, Mary. Thank you for joining us. I'm going to stop the presentation for a second if you want to intervene and tell us a little bit about yourself and introduce yourself.
Hey there. Thank you so much. Apologies for jumping in a little bit
No
late.
problem. We're recording this.
There's a time zone difference here. So yeah, my name is Mary. I'm a holistic health coach and certified health education specialist. And I did not want to become an expert in toxins, but I learned the hard way by getting really sick with mold poisoning and heavy metal toxicity in my body that opened a wealth of knowledge and exploration into this topic. As I began to heal my body, it was really important to, peel back these layers of what everything that Dr. Elena is already sharing about our indoor and outdoor air quality, our water, our food, our body care, our home products, all of these things, peeling back these layers so that our body can really thrive and function as it's intended. Thank you so much for sharing on this topic. It's so important.
Thank you for helping me host the webinar, and welcome. So when we're talking about top polluters, indoor air quality is very important, and we need to take into account the secondhand smoking. If there are any family members in the house that are smoking, the smoke will get through the vents. So a person in the basement or on the second floor is still going to be exposed to the same amount of smoking, whether they're in the room or in the house. Poor air circulation also allows for accumulation of these fumes to stay longer. Toiletries, so any kind of chemicalized toiletries, as well as mold. 50% of the homes have actually mold in them, but people are maybe not aware of them, or they have gotten used to the symptoms that they have, and they consider that as quote unquote normal. 25% of the population actually cannot really detox mold correctly because they have genetic predisposition and certain SNPs that genetically prevent them from detoxing. You want to tell us more about mold, Mary?
Right. Yes, I will. I'll jump on that. So I'll go a little bit further and say, even if you aren't one of the 25% that can't properly detox biotoxins, which really is mycotoxins, which is what mold produces, as well as other biotoxins like Lyme disease, so ticks and poisonous spider bites and snakes. Even if you don't have the ability to detox those as well, you can still become really sick from mold. And mold is a great mimicker of many different symptoms. So you might not know that mold is an issue, but there could be, certain indicators. Maybe you feel better leaving your house, and when you come back, your symptoms flare up. So you go on vacation for a week and you feel great. Yeah, you feel great because you're on vacation, but it also could be because there may be these issues like mold and chemicals in your house that could be making you sick. And I would maybe even venture to say that closer to 50-75% of buildings have some sort of water damage. And
Mhm.
while mold is an issue, it oftentimes when you have a water damaged building, it's mold, it's mycotoxins, it's endotoxins, it's mycotoxins. It's really like a soup that forms. And yes, there's outdoor mold, but it becomes problematic when our buildings are made out of materials like drywall and plastic that becomes food growth for mold.
Mhm.
Whereas outside, there's a lot of air circulation and mold that's naturally occurring, and it breaks down certain organisms. It's a natural function of life. We just aren't meant to live in an environment that has high levels of those types of molds and spores. And that's really what can cause and contribute to dis-ease in the body.
And some people have difficulty getting rid of the mold simply because they're not eradicating what's going on at the core. So constant exposure, like you mentioned, you go on vacation and you feel better, but then you come home and you're feeling worse, and you're taking a nystatin and some sort of anti-mold medication, right? But that's a Band-Aid. If you're not eliminating the trigger, where is the mold located? Eradicate that, then you're going to continue to have symptoms. And not only will you become colonized, but it develops a protective film, a biofilm. So then it protects itself so it can thrive in that moist environment. And it's very difficult to respond to conventional medication. So unless you use something that breaks through that biofilm to get to the mold, then you're not really accomplishing anything in the treatment. And treatment starts from the root cause, eliminating the trigger, the source of
Right.
the infection.
Removing the source of the infection. And oftentimes when we're looking at mold, we're also looking at what else is going on in our body. So if you have mercury amalgam fillings in your mouth and you are using, cleaning products or personal care products that are problematic and have chemicals, these are all things that really pile on top of each other. And so it's really important first remove the source and then provide really good nutrition and nourishment to the body, and look more upon alkalizing the body and providing a good nutrient support for the body, because the body can heal and do miraculous things when you remove it from a toxic environment and give it the substance that it needs to heal. We don't necessarily need to kill mold. in our homes or our bodies. It's more about a gentle approach and giving the body what it needs to do what it already knows how to do.
To detox and heal itself. That's
Right.
right. That's why we do natural approaches, because they work and
Mhm.
they don't give you the side effects. So, and also it's important to consider the other things that are clogging up our hormonal receptors, like candles, especially the ones that contain synthetic type of aromatics. Um, Always choose a beeswax type of base candle that is natural, that has negative ion power of calming down the smells in the house, but is not clogging up your hormone receptors. And volatile organic compounds from all kinds of off-gassing in carpets and furniture and things like that.
Right. One
And
thing with cooking
mhm,
that I wanted to mention, if it's okay,
you want me to go
the
back?
yeah, if we could just go back to that slide. What I think is really important to look at, what a lot of people don't realize, is like gas stove versus electric stove and making sure the
Mhm.
ventilation is properly there. Gas stoves can cause a lot of issues for people, and they might not even realize it, especially if you have chemical sensitivity and there is mold in a house. It can really exacerbate things. And so, there's always pros and cons to everything,
Yes.
but gas stoves can be problematic for many people, and also making sure that there's proper ventilation when you're cooking, and even taking a shower, like proper ventilation in the bathrooms and in the whole house, and having that airflow. So if there is indoor air quality issues, um, first of all, you're trying to eliminate those exposures, but also having that proper ventilation, open air, having windows open, and having the even exchange. Hopefully you're living in a area that has clean outdoor air, but if not, also including some sort of air filtration in your home can be really helpful as well.
Paula is asking, how do we vent our home with a gas stove? Just having the stove hood that actually vents outside as opposed to recirculating the air in the kitchen, and opening the window that provides plenty of aeration. So that would be
Right.
sufficient.
And making sure there's no leaks. I know that can be
Right.
a common issue with gas stoves.
So toxins in our food, we need to be mindful of additives, preservatives, growth hormones that are unfortunately added to our meats, and probably chickens and therefore eggs, chemicals, antibiotics, unwanted bacteria, heavy metals, parasites, genetically modified foods, pesticides, and fertilizers. And we go through these as we move through the presentation. So I am gonna do this so I can actually see what I'm looking at. I know you guys can see my screen. So the environmental toxins are associated with metabolic dysregulation, inflammation, and autoimmune disease. Remember that the root cause for all diseases is inflammation. Anything that increases inflammation will eventually lead to leaky gut or intestinal permeability. And from there, your immune system is going to go in overdrive and tag or attack organs and joints in your body and create an autoimmune disease. So this is the flow of chronic disease. We need to eliminate the toxins for these reasons. Currently, in 2014, in the environmental triggers and autoimmunity, studies have shown that genetic predisposition accounts for approximately 30% of autoimmune diseases. So remember this, your genetic predisposition is only 30% for developing an autoimmune disease, but it's epigenetics, how your body reacts to an external stimulus, that accounts for the rest of the 70% of the autoimmune disease development. And this is due to environmental factors, including toxic chemicals, dietary components, gut dysbiosis, and infections.
Right. And that's really the science of epigenetics, right? So we may
Mhm.
have certain genes, but unless the environment is triggering them to turn to be on
On.
or
Mhm.
then we don't see that sickness and disease.
That's right. So we could have a SNP on a certain gene, but if there's not a trigger to turn that gene on in a bad way, then that gene will never manifest itself. So we will stay silent. So epigenetics is an entire medical domain that explains the creation of autoimmune and chronic diseases. So going through some heavy metals, talk about mercury. Mercury is found in dental amalgams, and Mary alluded to that. Farmed fish and wild-caught fish in the Atlantic Ocean. Thimerosal is a mercury preservative used in vaccines. And even though this has been eliminated from all of them, some of the influenza vaccines still carry them. So when you go to the pharmacy or your physician's office next time and you get your influenza vaccine, make sure you ask for a mercury-free influenza vaccine. It's very easy to come by that. So mercury concentrates in their nervous system and therefore causes neurological disorders, hormonal disruption, and insulin production interference. It pretty much eats up all that antioxidant natural reserves that body has and causes mitochondrial dysfunction, leaving one person to be vulnerable to an oxidative damage and increased risk for cardiovascular disease. It's easy to avoid mercury toxicity by choosing wild-caught seafood from the Pacific Ocean, avoiding halibut, orange roughy, shark, snapper, swordfish, and tuna. So instead, you can choose from catfish, cod, flounder, ocean perch, whitefish, clams, scallops, and shrimp. Of course, be mindful of your allergies. Some people have true allergies to shellfish, and they have tongue swelling or hives. Well, that is to be avoided.
Right. I am one of those people. I'm very allergic to shellfish.
Then
And
don't eat it.
I will add with the mercury in the fish, it really has to do with sourcing as well, and like the
Yes.
different parts of the ocean, and the size of the fish. So a lot of the fish that are bigger in size are the mercury is bioaccumulative and it's becoming accumulated in the tissues of these fish. And so opting for, if you are going to eat a bigger size fish, opting for one that maybe is a little bit on the smaller size of that variation. And then to your point of the vaccines as well, there's so much more than just thimerosal mercury in the vaccines, which is a whole different conversation, but really trusting in your body's own immune system. And by building it up through removing environmental toxins and by giving our body good nutrients, we can have our own immunity built in where we're not even having to rely on outside sources, like the flu shot, to be able to build up our immune system. I believe in the theory of terrain theory versus germ theory. And that's really what we're talking about here, is having a healthy terrain and building a healthy internal and external environment, so that when germs and diseases and viruses come about, that our body has the capacity to protect us and to do its job.
Of course, and there's plenty of research that actually shows that third world countries have less autoimmune diseases simply because they're not germ freaks. So, and the exposure to germs early in life and throughout actually builds up a better gut microbiome. Where in developed countries where everything is wash your hands and sanitize yourself, it's actually destroying the normal bacteria that it's supposed to be part of the commensal gut flora, and it's negatively impacting the gut microbiome. So lead is found in old paint, in plumbing, some herbal remedies imported from outside of the USA. So it's always incumbent upon us to check the zone of provenance for some of these herbal natural supplements. So look for labels. Lead accumulation in children has been linked to development of learning disabilities, leading to a lower IQ and attention deficit disorder. In adults, lead disrupts the hypothalamus pituitary adrenal axis and leads to poor stress response, hormonal imbalance, and increased blood pressure. So you'll have problems with that cortisol and electrolyte system. The effects on the nervous system translate into depression and anxiety, Alzheimer's, and Parkinson's. And I'm not sure I'm able to
One area of interest, I used to work at the health department way back when,
Mhm.
and in the environmental health clinic was a really big problem of children having high levels in their blood due to toys as well. And
Yes,
kids like
that's right.
put toys in their mouths and chew on toys. And so really being careful. I mean, besides lead, there's phthalates and other chemicals that can be found, BPA, in toys. And
Of
so it's really
course.
important, especially just from that aspect. It doesn't necessarily have to be paint on a wall, but it could be your toys that your kids are playing with that would have chemicals like lead in them.
And unfortunately, that it's not mentioned on the label of the toy. So
Mhm.
it's kind of hard to trust that it is lead-free.
Right. Well, toys are being made from all different parts of the world, right? And
Right.
so, that's why one reason of many why it could be a really good idea to buy locally and opt for toys and things that are like homemade or that the source of where they're coming from.
Yes, absolutely. We can get tested. There's a question about can we get tested for lead in our body? Yes, we can. And you can do that in hair, serum, and urine. So you can get levels of where your lead is. Absolutely. There's some specialty lab, functional labs that do test for lead. Do you know anything different, Mary?
No, I would say that oftentimes it's not just like lead as a solo test that you can do. You can do a blood test for lead. Oftentimes it's a panel,
It's a
that we're
panel, yeah. It's a heavy metal panel, and you can do
uh,
it either on hair, urine, or serum, and it gives you impression of all the heavy metals.
right. And each test has their own pro and
Pros
cons
and
that
cons,
go
yes.
along with it. Uh, you know, Sometimes heavy metal tests are they're measuring heavy metals, but they're also measuring our body's own ability to be able to excrete the toxins. So, for example, you can test for mold in your body, but if your kidneys aren't filtering properly and your body's not really getting rid of the mold and it's just stuck in your organs and tissues
Mhm.
and lymph system, then that test might not pick it up. So, it's really important. We're going to talk about it a little bit towards the end about a protocol that we use, but making sure that your detox pathways are open. And then doing testing can actually yield a little bit more accurate information.
Absolutely. Oh, no problem. So arsenic. Arsenic is found in drinking water, in herbicides, in seafood, and non-organic chicken. This also causes adrenal dysregulation, that HPA axis dysfunction, leading to symptoms of high or low cortisol, which is intimately involved with thyroid, insulin, and hormone balance. So you can see that automatically it affects the hormone balance. So how do you avoid arsenic? You purchase your chicken organic, preferably at a local farm. You can choose wild-caught Pacific food. Filter your water. If you prefer rice to other grains, remember that the white rice that's grown organically picks up the arsenic just the same way as conventional rice does. So then choose brown rice instead, brown basmati rice from California being the best choice in the US. BPA. BPA is used in hard plastics. Give me a second.
I'll continue on for her. BP is used in hard plastics and resin lining of many foods and beverage cans. You'll often find it in like plastic water bottles or, in Tupperware containers that are like a softer plastic, but they actually mimic the estrogen alpha receptor. So they give the body the false impression that estrogen levels are actually higher than they actually are. And so then your body starts to go into this like hormonal chaos. You might see that there's a lot of labeling now that says like BPA free, because this is something that has been brought to the public's attention. Um, it's also really important, which you saw the next slide was phthalates, that it's never one single thing, but it's really important just to, know these things are in there so you can make better choices as a consumer. So you can avoid BPAs by really shopping in the periphery of the grocery store, because that's often where a lot of the fresh fruits and vegetables are. Um, Avoiding, like a lot of canned goods will have BPA as well.
Yes.
So make sure on the label that the BPA is not in there. Always choosing fresh food. If I have to choose between different types of food, it's always fresh first and then flash frozen, and then canned would be like last choice. So, you want to opt for fresh food anyways. There's
Many of
things
the
like,
cans are not labeled for not containing a
right,
BPA lining, so be leery of that.
right. And even things like, I don't really ever buy canned foods, but I do buy coconut oil every once in a while, or coconut milk every once in a while. And that's a challenging one because the coconut milk in a can actually like tends to leach more of the BPA and phthalates and things out because it's that fatty
Fat,
substance,
yeah.
and fat
BPA,
draws toxins to it.
yep, BPA stands for bisphenol A, and it's accumulating in fatty tissues and in fatty foods. So like Mary was saying, coconut oil being so fat, having such a high content of fat, if there's any BPA lining in the can, that can leach into the coconut milk. So just be
Mhm.
leery of that. Phthalates are found in plastics that have an increased flexibility. They're also fat soluble, and they leak easily into fatty foods packaged in flexible plastic wrapping. So as a general rule, just try to stay away from anything plastic. It's kind of hard these days because even our lettuce comes in a plastic wrap, and tomatoes are in a plastic bag, and pretty much everything is plastic bagged. Phthalates also are known to have estrogenic effects. They increase the cell death in testicular cells, and they have been linked to low sperm count, birth defects, diabetes, thyroid problems, obesity, and breast cancer. Low rates of fertility these days in men is actually related to exposure to these endocrine disruptive chemicals that are causing that cell apoptosis in testicular cells and contributing to the low sperm count.
Mhm.
Personal care products containing phthalates also deliver them topically. Remember, they are absorbed through the skin, and it gets easily absorbed through the skin. So anything you put on the skin does matter because you are going to be absorbing it systemically. So to avoid exposure, try to store your cooked food in glass containers or ceramic, and avoid using plastic cover in the microwave. If the glass container has a hard plastic top, that's okay, as long as you're not using it to cover the food while it's being microwaved.
And I
And
would go above and beyond and just say, if
don't
try to
use the
avoid
microwave.
egg at all costs.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because you're irritating your food and really making your food devoid of nutrients. So if you can heat it in a stove, oven top, there's always a healthier option.
Right, but let's be honest, we don't live in a bubble. And when we go to work, we don't have a cooktop to warm things on, and we have to rely on a microwave. So just try to microwave as little as possible. Remember not to cover, just put a napkin over if you want to prevent spillage. Well, PBDE, try saying that 3 times fast. Polybrominated diphenyl ethers. What are these? These are chemicals used in fire retardants, and they are applied to our furniture, carpets, laminate flooring, even in children's pajamas. They have become part of our daily life without our knowledge or consent. Many times they are not written on the labels of the products that we purchase. Studies have shown that they also contribute to a decreased fertility and thyroid problems. And the only remedy at this time is for avoidance. So that means investing into expensive specialty or alternative type of furniture, which is not really feasible or cost effective for many of us.
Mhm.
Smoking and vaping. This is a new disease of the young generation. It causes asthma, COPD, lung cancer, cardiovascular disease, strokes, peripheral vascular disease, pancreatic cancer, glaucoma, Alzheimer's. These are just a few of the things that it's contributing to. And I think I forgot bladder cancer. Here are some of the chemicals that you find in nicotine-containing products. ammonia, arsenic, benzene, butane, cadmium, carbon monoxide, hydrogen cyanide, lead, polonium. This is a radioactive toxic chemical. Not sure why it belongs in our body, right? By choice. Toluene, vinyl chloride, plus all kinds of other chemicals that really have no place in our body. So for those of you who are smoking, please try your hardest to quit. Converting from regular cigarettes to vaping is not necessarily the better choice, because in vaping, there are a lot of volatile compounds that are being absorbed even easier than the tobacco. So try as much as you can to quit smoking. I have a more comprehensive list of heavy metals, and that's available on my website at True Health Solutions Clinic. And then you go to ebooks and programs, and you should be able to download the guide. So toxins in our body, as we were talking about, the fact that they are absorbed through the skin, it takes 26 seconds to absorb chemicals that are present in any kind of products that we use for personal care. 9 is the number of personal products an average adult uses each day. 126 unique chemicals are found in those products. So be mindful and read labels. Mm-hmm. Medications, supplements, they also add to your toxic burden. So sourcing is very important. Your supplements, even though they're natural, if you purchase them at your local GNC and Amazon and CVS and Rite Aid, they have all kinds of fillers and possible heavy metal accumulation, so toxicity. There have been random supplements that were picked up off the shelf and investigated with a thorough chemical analysis, and they found all kinds of gluten additives and rice fillers with absolutely nothing to account for what was written on the labels. So make sure that when you pick your supplements, you look for sourcing. It has to be a medical grade professional formula that are third-party tested, that ensures not only the contents that are written on the bottle, but also the purity of those ingredients, especially when it comes to fish oil. You want to make sure that fish oil is completely free of any kind of heavy metal toxicity. Better yet, if you're able to improve your health by doing just whole food dieting, and we will be presenting in the end Purium products that help you supplement all of these vitamins and minerals in whole food format that is grown on regenerative soil and harvested at ripening time. That's even better for your health. So toxins in the cookware, specifically for aluminum, remember Teflon, anything that is non-stick is going to have all kinds of chemicals that are leaching into the food as it's being cooked with increasing temperatures of cooking. So aluminum can be found in your aluminum tinfoil, aluminum coated cookware, antiperspirants, so your deodorants, antacids, processed foods using baking powder and self-rising flour. So look for products that do not contain these aluminum contaminants. Look for aluminum-free baking powder. Look for deodorants that do not have aluminum. Never mind the self-rising flour, just get the regular flour, and better yet, avoid anything that comes from wheat, simply because in the US, the way that they process the wheat products actually removes all the benefits. And when it's called fortified, they add synthetic type of vitamins and minerals back into the flour. And that has contributed to an increasing rise in gluten sensitivities and celiac disease. So mercury elimination from vaccines has allowed aluminum to replace it as a preservative. So be mindful of this. Aluminum accumulation resides in the bones, in the lungs, and the nervous system. And there has been some correlation with rise in autism from exposure to aluminum. Aluminum has also been linked to breast cancer, kidney failure, neurological disorders such as dementia, Alzheimer's, MS, ALS, and Parkinson's. In order to decrease exposure to aluminum leaching into your foods, then switch your cooking to stainless steel, cast iron, ceramic pots, and pans, and make sure that you read the labels clearly and avoid things that contain aluminum. Do you want to add anything, Mary?
I think you covered it pretty comprehensively. Yeah. The other thing I would say about aluminum is like in dental work, because there
Yeah.
can be like certain crowns and mercury amalgam fillings can include other heavy metals as well that we sometimes, it's not just mercury, sometimes it's aluminum and other metals. So being really mindful as a consumer, and the more that you are choosing options, you're voting with your dollar in terms of it's driven by what we're buying. So by voting with your dollar, you are helping to spread more awareness and help get healthier choices out there, and protecting your own health. One brand that I really like, if I can, I love Le Creuset. I'm not like an advocate or anything for them, but Le Creuset is a great brand, and there's some other brands that are non-stick and that they are like a healthier option. So if you have questions about that, I'm sure Dr. Elena and I both can answer to get better choices into your kitchen for cooking and for dishes.
Absolutely. Excuse me. And mentioning what you were talking about dentistry, that's why it's very important to find a functional dentist that is very mindful about the materials that are used in fillings or crowns. It's hard to get to see a functional dentist. It probably is months of waiting, but it's definitely worth it.
Yeah, there's actually a really great website called IAOMT. And I want to say, let me look it up just so I quote it right. IAOMT.org. And they have a lot of great information. It is the International Academy of Oral Medicine and Toxicology, and you can find a biological dentist. And there's a difference between a biological dentist versus a holistic dentist. There's different certifications that you go through as a biological dentist. That's where I got my mercury fillings removed, because there's a safe protocol that they use so that they're not being exposed to mercury, so that you're not being exposed to mercury, and so that the environment is being protected, and that there's a very certain way, because if our amalgam fillings are 50% mercury, then the other 50% is like copper and aluminum and nickel and other heavy metals that, we don't want to get sicker by removing them, and we don't want to put that back into the earth. So it really, there's a lot of great resources on the IAOMT.org website where you can educate yourself. You can also find a biological dentist near you. And if you're in Arizona or in Michigan, I have recommendations for dentists that I personally have worked with.
Awesome. Thank you, Mary. So getting back to the toxins in your food storage, this, excuse me, this affects your BPA and phthalates. Toxins in our cleaning products, as you can see, all cleaning products can contain any percentage of these that we've already talked about. So it is very important to eliminate these, because constant exposure will lead to accumulation and clogging up those hormonal receptors and causing metabolic dysbiosis. Also, the toxins in our lawn, playgrounds, and golf courses. Think about the insecticides and herbicides. Those are going to actually cause impaired soil quality, and anything in the surrounding area is going to be contaminated. So if you have a farm next to a golf course, the water supply is going to be contaminated, and the mineral content of the soil is going to be depleted, and therefore the crops that are grown in that particular farm is going to have produce that is not nutritionally adequate for your consumption.
Mm-hmm.
So what does toxicity cause? Why is the toxicity so important? What does it cause in the body? It causes hormone imbalances. It causes inflammation that leads to damage of the gut, which we call leaky gut or intestinal permeability. It causes fatigue and weight gain. And with gut disruption, it's also going to impair vitamin production and neurotransmitter metabolization and production. So you want to tell us about the toxic bucket theory?
Yeah, so everybody is different. There's bioindividuality. And so you can see these three people here have the same size bucket in front of them, but because of past exposure, environmental exposures, maybe childhood trauma, nutritional
Genetic.
disease, genetics, we all have different things that can build our toxic bucket. And so you'll see the guy on the right, his toxic bucket is overflowing. And our goal really is to help you to lower your toxic bucket, to start emptying that water off. So how do we do that? First, we have to turn off the faucet. So we have to turn off the sources that are causing that. And then we can begin to really empty the bucket and get your body back into a state of vitality and vibrance. So, everyone's different of what might tip or spill their bucket over. For myself, it was moving into a really moldy house, and I already had the mercury fillings. I already, maybe wasn't eating the best diet, but my body was like still doing okay until I moved into that house. And that was the thing that caused it to spill over. So everyone is going to have a different trigger or different things that might fill up the bucket. You also might know someone who's like 65 or 70 who like smokes a pack of cigarettes a day and is seemingly like healthy versus you are like
Seemingly.
seemingly, that's why I use the quotes.
Yeah.
Versus you are maybe the guy that's totally blue on the right. And so really just understanding that everything that we put in our body, whether it's our thoughts, it's our food, it's the people that we're surrounding ourselves with, these all can contribute to chronic disease.
And listen to your
Or health,
warning
or good
signs.
health. Right.
Of course. Yeah,
Yeah.
listen to your warning signs. This person here in the middle for sure is going to have some symptoms. Don't think that you're just getting old and therefore you should be feeling miserable. Nobody should be feeling bad simply because they're aging. So listen to your body. If there's something that tells you that something changed, something's odd, get help, get evaluated so you do not get to this by the time where an autoimmune disease has already set up shop.
Right. I like to say that symptoms are your body's messages of love.
Yes.
Really what they are. They're just alerting your body that, hey, something's out of balance. Something physiologically, we're gonna give you a headache, or we're gonna have this like ache in our leg because physiologically something's out of balance. And so our body's going to respond in a particular way. And depending on your genetics and where your body is weaker, quote unquote, that's where it might manifest in one person over the other. And so by knowing that our body is sending us signals of love, we can better pay attention to it. Instead of taking ibuprofen or taking a medicine to cover that up, we can really look deeper and see what is the root cause, why is my body, and what is my body trying to tell me, and go from there.
That's right. So what are some common symptoms of toxic overload? Very non-specific: chronic low energy, mood swings, brain fog, accelerated aging, stubborn weight gain that it's not resolving with dieting or exercise, immune system, poor sleep, anxiety and depression, joint pain, inflammation, stiffness, asthma, skin conditions, cancer, autoimmune illnesses, constipation, or diarrhea. These are all symptoms of something being off in the body. There's some sort of toxic exposure, something that is disrupting the homeostasis. So don't wait until you get to an autoimmune disease or cancer. If you have any of these symptoms, then seek help. So what does it mean to detox, right? You wanna...
Yeah.
I don't
So,
want to take over everything.
oh, you're good. So organs that cleanse our toxins, our whole entire body is working together as a beautiful system to really support and help. We don't even think about breathing, but we're breathing and we're here watching this webinar. And our body is amazing in that way. And our body wants to heal. And so there's 7 major organ systems that really help us cleanse toxins, although our whole body's doing the job at the same time. And they are our liver, our lymphatic system, our colon, our digestive system, our blood, our skin, our kidneys, and our lungs. And so our goal really is to support these organs of elimination. And if our kidneys are really blocked up and are not filtering, then like we talked about earlier, you might not be excreting heavy metals or mold toxins that are in your body. Same thing with the liver. When I was living in mold, one of my biggest symptoms was a lot of soreness on my liver and my kidneys. And that was because my body just was so overwhelmed with toxins that my liver and my kidneys were not able to process everything that was coming through. And so by addressing all of these at once, by the food that we're putting in our body, by sweating, by moving our bodies, that addresses a lot of like the lymph, system. Our lymph doesn't have its own pump. So by physical exercise, by sweating, we can start to stimulate this. And from there, really start to support the body. And I think we're going to talk about this later on. So I don't want to get too far into detail.
No problem. This was Heather's story. So I don't know if, this is her authentic story, so I don't want to take over.
We can share a little bit about Heather. So Heather was supposed to join on the webinar. I'm sure you said that earlier.
I did, yes.
I'm filling in for her today. But Heather is actually a client of mine, and now she's a dear friend and colleague. And when I first started working with her 2 years ago, it was in November of 2020. She had been sick with chronic Lyme disease chronic illness for over 25 plus years, and was really struggling. And for years was on, like narcotic pain meds, and was having trouble sleeping, was in a lot of chronic pain, a lot of trouble walking and standing. Actually, when I met her,
she was in a wheelchair.
And she to be able to cook food in the kitchen, she was like using her stool and had like a shower chair. And now I actually have met her in person, and we went on a hike together in Arizona. So she went from like only being able to eat 10 foods to, she's still really health conscious, but to be able to eat over 100 foods, being able to go walking and hiking, and she plays pickleball weekly. And she has transformed so much, and she's still, still healing and going through the different layers. Because if you've been sick that long, you don't heal overnight.
Yeah.
26 years of sickness, like it's going to take a bit to regenerate and heal, but she has made a lot of amazing progress by really nourishing her body and starting to remove some of those sources like we talked about.
And this is a common thought that patients have when they come to anybody's practice. At least for me, that is the case. They expect an amazing transformation overnight or within a month, because they're saying, so I have to do this for how long? And I have to eliminate these foods for how long? And I always tell them that the elimination process, it's really dependent on how their body is handling. So there's no cookie cut recipe that is the same for every person who comes to see me. Everybody has different needs, and everybody has a different detoxification process. Their metabolism is different. I cannot force the body to go at a different rate than what it is used to go at. It is the rate that the body feels comfortable with. So we're going to take a gentle approach, and we want to stimulate the elimination process first before we start detoxifying, because through detoxification, we're making those chemicals become water soluble, and therefore they're going to be more potent and more toxic than in their original form. So we want to make sure that we have an elimination system already in place through bowel movements daily, through sauna, sweating, ways to eliminate this waste. We don't want to build up the detox to get the tissues to release the toxins, and then they get stuck not having where to go. Well, this process can be fast for some, and it can be slow for others. Do you have the same approach?
Yeah, absolutely. For me personally, I tried to go the detox, like detox route, and really forced my body into some uncomfortable thing. So when I use the word detoxing, I'm not saying, we're not saying, like go do this treatment or like 10 days of straight colonics and like these extreme measures. Really, we are supporting the body where your body's at, and allowing your body to do the self-healing. For me, I moved out of the moldy house and I started on a protocol of different isolate supplements that really, like you mentioned, I didn't realize were doing a lot more damage than good, even though they were supposedly medical grade, and actually they weren't from CVS or Walgreens, but they were from actually a functional medicine doctor. But she wasn't aware of what you're aware of, Dr. Elena. She wasn't aware of all the additives and fillers, and she wasn't aware of it wasn't healthy for my body to be taking 15 to 20 different supplements at a time, because that was just more for my kidneys, which weren't filtering to be able to process.
Right.
And so I learned about the concept of regenerative health 2 years into my healing journey. And that is the moment that things started to really shift for me. The concept of let's open the lymphatic system through gentle lymphatic massage and through far infrared sauna, through
Infrared.
sweating, and really using whole superfoods and amino acids and alkaline foods to bring the body out of a state of acidity into a place of alkalinity, and really start to like open up those tissues and support the organs of elimination that we just talked about, so that
Yep, that's right.
the toxin could start being eliminated. And when I started doing that and started taking more of a regenerative approach than a harsh detox approach, I started noticing so much energy. My kidney and liver pain disappeared. I was actually able to start working again and helping people through this avenue like we're doing today. And I just got a lot of my life force energy back, which I had been missing for years.
And I'm sure a lot of people are looking forward to doing the same.
Yeah.
So Deborah's story, this is before detox. She had limited mobility, chronic pain, high cholesterol, and being overweight. And after detox, she has improved her mobility. She was able to lose weight. She normalized her cholesterol panel, and she had decreased pain. Same with Kyle. Before, he had sleep disturbances and fatigue. And after gentle detox, he was able to have good sleep at night, increase energy and stamina throughout the day, and was able to lose weight. So the benefits of detox in general is improved digestion, helping in weight loss, increased energy, better sleep, improved skin appearance, decreased pain and inflammation, and improved mental clarity. So how do you reduce your toxic load? You start with diet, foundation. EWG.org, Environmental Working Group, has an up-to-date yearly list of the Dirty Dozen and Clean 15. And these change, so it's a good idea to check often with them so you can see what's prevalent for that particular season. Clean 15, these you can purchase them whether they're organic or not. The Dirty Dozen, preferably to buy these specifically organic because they have a higher affinity towards pesticides and herbicides, and especially strawberries, unless you buy them from the Amish, at least in Michigan, they are going to be pesticide laden. So it's a good idea to check with ewg.org for an up-to-date list and follow these. Stay in the produce section, purchase products that you actually recognize when you pick it up in your hand.
Yeah, and they actually have little shopping carts that if you go onto the website that you can print off and use. And I will say I try to buy organic like all the time. But I try to buy local first. So like being in Hawaii is amazing because you have an abundance of fruit trees that you can pick from. But also knowing that like there's a very large population of like GMO papayas and GMO
Mhm.
pineapple. So just knowing like if you are going to eat locally, say you're in Michigan, because I think a lot of people watching this are more so maybe in Michigan.
Michigan,
Um,
yeah.
you know, there's a mix of people here, but in Michigan, farmers markets are abundant during the summer. And so really trying to shop locally. And some local farmers might not be able to afford the organic label because the USD organic stamp is really expensive, but you can ask the farmer, like, do you spray? What kind of farming practices do you know? And just becoming a savvy buyer so that you can support local. And if you can't support local, buying from the grocery, buying organic, especially from the Dirty Dozen, because those are the most heavily sprayed. And even if you're washing them, the
Hey, they're
pesticides are
still
still,
contaminated. Yeah,
still very much inside of the fruit or vegetable.
absolutely. So to further decrease your exposure to toxins in food, obviously eat whole foods, fresh is best. Read the labels, make sure that if you come across any kind of name that you don't recognize, it's probably a chemical that you have no idea about, put it right back on the shelf. Avoid artificial sweeteners, Splenda, and I don't know what else is there. Avoid preservatives and artificial flavors. And we have a question. Would vinegar wash clean the fruit? Yes, it would, but if it is part of the Dirty Dozen, most likely it has already absorbed a lot of that pesticide or chemical that has been used to grow the fruit. So you're just superficially removing what's available on the skin, but not what has affected its growth, if that makes sense.
Right. Like warm water is going to be helpful. You could use vinegar or like baking soda, but that can actually draw out nutrients too. So you just want to be
Mhm.
careful about what you're using. Like a little bit of soap and water is helpful at cleaning most things.
Yep. So beauty goes more than skin deep. This actually is a certain um, subgroup of ewg.org. It's called Skin Deep, and you can actually go and check on their website for various products that you use for your personal care and see if they are endorsed by EWG or not, and whether they have any kind of chemicals that could potentially pose a risk for health.
I really
Um,
like how they lay it out too on the website because I mean, I haven't been on there super recently, but you can actually download the app on your phone and you can scan certain products in the store and it'll populate for you, which is a really nice feature. And it will give you a rating like green, red,
yeah, it has a
or
color
orange.
gauge and
It
it
has
tells you
color,
where it is. Yeah.
really helpful and like breaks it down what's in there.
Yep.
So that's helpful. But I just love making my own products as well. I have a couple companies that have, or a couple of friends that make their own skincare beauty products, and even like like things with the coconut oil, like rose base, are just amazing. And um, if you would like to support some local businesses, let me know, and I'm happy to set you up some like amazing skincare that doesn't have any chemicals in them.
Sure, send me the information by email and then I will share it with participants. That would be great. Thank you. Tips on how to choose safe cosmetics. Less is more. You want to go through it, Mary?
Yeah, so less is more. So what we were just talking about, ask yourself which products you can do without, since the best way to avoid chemicals is to use fewer products. I was actually like reading a statistic about women, and one linkage to why women tend to experience more autoimmune issues is on average, women are putting more products, more makeup, more lotion, more just everything on their bodies on a daily basis. And so this exposure adds up. And so choosing products with less ingredients is step number one. To keep it simple, which it goes hand in hand. So avoiding products that have long lists of chemical ingredients. If you can't pronounce the ingredient, then I just, whether that's food or a skincare product, I just avoid it. I don't want anything in or on my body that I can't pronounce. 3, avoiding fragrance. Even if it says natural fragrance, these products usually are just made up of a lot of different added chemicals. If something is says like essential oil, like lavender essential oil, that's
That
different.
would
But
be
if it
fine.
just says the blanket term fragrance, that to me is like big red flag. 4, understanding labels. So understanding what fragrance means, or understanding certain ingredients, rather than relying on claims like organic or natural, because there's a lot of like marketing buzzwords where something might on a container look green and might have like a pretty leaf and might say like all natural, but then you flip it around and like what's actually in it is a different story. And then number 5, get crafty. So like I was mentioning, know exactly what's in your products, and you can make your own or support someone that does make their own. I have this amazing rose sugar scrub that has rose essential oil, rose petals, or like it's like dried rose petals, brown sugar, and honey, and maybe like one other ingredient. And I just like exfoliate my face with that, and it's amazing. And then depending on your skin type, right? Mine's tends to be a little bit drier, but I just use like a little bit of coconut oil or this like Ayurvedic blend from Banyan Botanicals to give myself self massage and like put on my face. And
Maybe
your
sea
body,
salt.
yeah, right. Just depending on your body type, and it can be a fun little like project too to make your own ingredients. And if you have kids, it's a really fun way to like kind of have an arts and crafts project with them, and then also teach them at the same time what is healthy and like how being healthy can be fun.
We already covered the food storage
Yeah,
in glass
how you
containers and ceramic. So
reading the label. So like cyclopentasilicol, I can barely pronounce that. So
yeah, I
stay
have no
away
idea what it
from
is. PPG 14, I don't know. C12 15, I don't know what these things are, right? Castor oil should not be hydrogenated, so I'm not sure why it's hydrogenated castor oil. Fragrance, not a good idea. So all kinds of things that really don't belong here. So make sure you read your labels.
right. And just to throw some things out there, like Dr. Bronner's is a good clean clean product, generally speaking. That's pretty clean. Like you can use that as multi-purpose. When you're making your own cleaning products here, you can just use a solution of like half vinegar, get a spray bottle and put half vinegar, half water, maybe a couple of drops of your favorite essential oil. Like I like orange or tea tree because that's antibacterial, viral, smells really yummy. And then a drop or 2 of Dr. Bronner's. Like you don't need much. You don't want to make it super sudsy, but that is a really cost effective, probably way cheaper than buying anything you'd find at the store, and it cleans really well. And you can change the proportion of vinegar. You can probably even Google a recipe, but you can change the proportion of vinegar, like if you want to clean the windows versus like having a multi-purpose cleaner for the counters. And it's really that simple to make your own cleaning product. But if you aren't going to make your own, looking for a couple of different things, like a third party certified on the label can be helpful. Being mindful of what kind of materials you're using. So is it in a plastic bottle or a glass bottle? If we can contribute to less plastic waste here on Earth, that's ideal.
Because it
Looking at,
accumulates for years and it doesn't
oh,
biodegrade.
right. Yeah. And that's the beauty of like making your own, because you can just have your own glass, spray bottle, and you can just keep
Reusable. Yeah.
making. Yeah.
Did we answer the question, Paula?
Let's see. What was the question? I would love to have them make your own info. Yeah, I can send Dr. Elena a list of what we're talking about on this call so that everyone can have those notes afterwards.
I think maybe she was pointing to make your own type of personal care products,
Hmm.
not as much as house
Yes,
cleaning
personal care.
products.
The personal
Okay.
care, please. Yes.
Right. Okay. So personal care. Okay. We'll get that
Well,
to you.
for that, like I mainly support, I have a couple of friends that like make their own beauty care products, so I can share that information with you. But also Google can be helpful in that case as well, of just kind of getting crafty and creative of like, like homemade, even like homemade laundry detergent I've made before. And just, there's a lot of like wellness bloggers out there that have some pretty cool recipes and like DIY things.
A seventh generation product, it's also good. It is plant-based for doing your laundry. Just avoid those dryer sheets because they're heavy in chemicals. So put the things in the dryer by themselves. No need for any kind of dryer sheets.
You can get wool balls, which are really helpful
Sure.
in dryers, and get like the unscented ones. And I like Planet, and I actually recently have started using, I forget what brand they are specifically, but they are little, instead of like being in even a glass or like a plastic bottle, they're laundry strips, but they're natural laundry strips. And so using that to wash with saves plastic as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good to know. So these were the chemical, not the chemicals, with food type of products to clean that we were mentioning earlier, but this would be cleaning products for the house.
Right.
And it's very important to be a toxin detective, just like we said before, read your labels, avoid products that make irrelevant claims, even eco-friendly products, read the labels. You never know what could be hidden in there. And these were
There's a
the,
couple,
Mhm, go
go ahead.
ahead.
There's a couple of benefits of decreasing your toxic burden. So we covered these already, but really better skin, better sleep, less brain fog, less digestive troubles, more energy, weight loss, decrease in inflammation, better mood, like so many different benefits to just nourishing your body and getting the toxic crap out of your life can really elevate your well-being in so many different ways.
And it's so evident in cycling women who come in for a consult, and then we go through the history and we find all of these exposure to toxins. And when you tell them, well, let's eliminate that. So you don't want to put me on a medication? No, I don't. Let's clean up all the stuff that is clogging up all your receptors, and then we'll
Mhm.
figure it out if it's successful and whether we need to make any other interventions further down the line. And they return so happy that, oh my gosh, I didn't spend any money on any products. I simply removed the products from my life and I got better.
Yeah, I found that a lot with my own body. I used to get really painful periods and really painful cramps, and I would know when my period was coming, which actually is not normal. PMS is not normal.
No,
It's common, but not normal.
no.
And so now I only know I get my period because I'm like cycled up with the full moon or the new moon. And that's really how it should be. So as you detox, your hormones are going to be more balanced, if you're a woman and even a man, but it is, like you said, more apparent in women. And your cycle will be a lot
More regular, on time,
regular and
without
like,
cramps. Periods are
yeah,
supposed to just be there, kind of like children, right? Be seen, not heard.
yeah.
So
And our that cycle, like where we are, like when we are releasing and shedding that, if we're not, if our body's not ready to carry a baby yet, that's a really powerful time to go inward and to rest and recharge and like pray and use your intuition. That is a really powerful time. It shouldn't be a time of like pain and like laying in a bathtub.
true. And
um,
it actually improves fertility because you're declogging everything. So you're increasing your chances for fertility and you're improving the egg quality and the sperm quality, which is so productive for generations to come because a woman is born with a certain number of follicles. So that is being transmitted down generations. So that DNA is very important. Declogging up your system is actually helping not only your child, but your grandchild as well.
right. So if you're wanting to start a family, wanting to have kids, starting this detoxification regeneration like months or even years before is
Paramount. Yeah.
really crucial.
So what to do to decrease your toxic burden? You want to tell
So
us about it?
yeah, I would love to. So this is the protocol that really transformed my health, that I mentioned 2 years into mold detox. I was still really much struggling in my health and not turning a corner in the way that I should have been for how much I was doing, but not really seeing results. And so I moved away from taking these isolates to taking this protocol, which is a 30-day health reset, which really turned into like a lifestyle for me. I ended up doing this for 90 days. And so everyone's a little bit different, but essentially there are 4 main components: alkalize, nourish, detoxify, and then build and repair. So really 5. But there's the power shake, which is sprouted grasses and grains, vegetables and fruits. There's things like spirulina and wheatgrass juice, and just in an abundance. So much so there's like 6 superfood salads in 1 serving of the
One
power shake.
serving. Yeah.
Right. And so you're taking that twice daily. And so you're getting all of the micronutrients that your body really needs. And then you're also eating other foods and fresh fruits and vegetables around that. So you're really flooding your body and creating a more alkaline state. And while you're taking the power shake, you're also taking Biomedic, which is gut support. It has a pre and a probiotic in it, and it also has fulvic and humic acid, which, if you're not familiar, fulvic humic acid is something that's really
Binds.
important for soil health, and it remineralizes the soil. And it does the same in our body. It remineralizes our body, but it also has this negative charge. So it will pull out toxins like heavy metals, like
Glyphosate.
glyphosate. So that golf course picture earlier, it was intended to actually pull out glyphosate. It was in a clinical trial. They did it
GMOs.
for 6 weeks. Yeah. So it's like multi-purpose, but there was a clinical trial that was done for 6 weeks, and it decreased the participant CRP, which is C-reactive protein. It's a measure of inflammation in the body, by 74% within 6 weeks, by regularly taking Biomedic. And so we're taking the power shake and the Biomedic together to really alkalize and nourish and flush out the body. And then also at the same time, like scrub the gut lining and get rid of all the gunk so that our body can absorb the nutrients and good food that we're putting in our bodies and pull out toxins at the same time. And so we're taking those together, and then also taking the Super Amino 23, which is the building blocks of protein. The Super Amino 23 has 8 essential amino acids. So when you're taking something like chicken or animal protein, fish, lentils, beans, legumes, all of these things are protein sources, and your body's taking that protein and breaking it down into amino acid
Amino
form.
acids.
That is what your body's using to rebuild and to repair, to really use for every function in your body. They're linking amino acids to even like neuroreceptors in our brain. Amino acids are very, very therapeutic. And so we're taking these Super Amino 23, which was developed by an Italian physician for clients who are experiencing renal disease and who couldn't properly digest their food. And so we are taking these to rebuild and repair our body, but also provide our body with a fuel source that doesn't require a lot of digestion and a lot of energy to digest the food. So then therefore our body can spend more time on repairing,
Repairing.
healing,
Yeah.
because we
And
spend the most energy digesting our food, falling asleep, and waking up. And so if we can eliminate how much energy our body is putting towards digesting food, and we're giving it amino acids and a power shake and Biomedic, which is a meal replacement twice daily, then our body can really use those nutrients without having to like go through the whole like digestion process, and really use that to heal. You
But
can
it
see.
bears to say the fact that these are not produced in the labs. So these powders or super amino 23, they're not lab produced. They're actually fruits and vegetables that are grown in regenerative soil. They're
Right.
harvested at right time. So they're not ripening in the transporting truck from Hawaii to Michigan. They're actually harvested right when they're ripening. And then they're processed down to powder size. So you can reconstitute it at home. So you get that benefit of 6 to 9 servings of fruits and vegetables from one power shake.
Right. And so it's not necessarily replacing fruits and vegetables. Like we're still eating other
Correct.
food with this, but it's a way to really like give food as medicine to the body in a really compact way. And like you said, what I wanted to mention earlier is eating organic isn't enough in the time that we live in. Like our soils are very depleted. Our topsoil is something that holds a lot of the minerals and nutrients, but because of agricultural practices isn't there. And so what I love about Purium and these nutrients is that most of everything is grown on a farm, an organic, beyond organic farm that's 300 miles away from any other sort of conventional farm or industry. And it's grown in volcanic, like almost volcanic like soils, like in the mountain bed, like at the bottom of a lake bed. Which has like all the decomposing matter from the fish and from the algae and from like the freshwater springs that are coming down. And it's grown at a little higher altitude. So like the nutrient density that these grasses and grains and foods are grown in is really nutrient dense. And if it's not grown on the farm in Utah, then it is really cleanly sourced and handpicked and selected from other areas. That because integrity, Purium is pure plus premium, is really, really important to the owner of the company and then obviously both of us. So the other two products I didn't mention were the apothecary, which is organic tart cherry juice, which really helps decrease inflammation in the body. We take that at night to help with deeper sleep and help reset the body. And then super cleanser, which is parasite cleansing. So we do the parasite cleanse within this 30 days, like usually in the middle, and really help to get to deeper levels because parasites are oftentimes a missing root cause for people that are struggling in their health for multiple reasons. But we're actually going to be hosting a group transformation parasite cleanse for the next full moon, which is an ideal time to cleanse. So the next full moon is April 13th. And so it's a really good time to get started, really start to open up your detox pathways, build the nutrition foundation, and then on day 11, start that parasite cleanse.
Thank you.
Yeah, if you want to
So
share.
we have a coupon discount code for you if you're interested in these products. If you want something more tailored to your unique story, then definitely get a hold of us and we'd be able to help you along your journey. I actually had information for Heather here, and I can share in the following email information for Mary, so you can contact any one of us and ask your questions, get some help, become patients if you are interested.
Awesome.
I know we went a little bit over time, but if anybody has questions, by all means, please turn your mics on if you feel comfortable and share your questions with us. Or type them in the chat.
And I'll just add, if anyone's interested in the recording, or if you know someone that would benefit from this information, someone that is having hormone imbalance or autoimmune or cancer, or just like wants to generally feel better in their body, you can direct them to myself, Heather, or Dr. Elena, and we're happy to help and guide you back to better health so that you can feel good in your body.
Absolutely.
I have a question.
Well, it's body, mind, and spirit. Yes, please.
Yes, you guys are doing a really great job. Lots of information.
Thank you.
I already knew of it. I'm kind of on the same track as some of this, and I've had a awful experience with gut, if you know what I mean, with some probiotics, and then I added something else, so I was like over probioticing myself. It was awful in the bathroom all the time. And so how would I move over to a new product like you guys are talking about when I'm currently on a pre and probiotic and cleanse and a good nutritional whole food type of supplements if I wanted to switch? How do you switch?
As a physician, I always test because otherwise I guess. So I could be throwing the kitchen sink at you and hope that it sticks and it's going to have some positive outcome, but I prefer to test. So I would suggest to do a comprehensive functional stool test that actually gives me information about your entire gut microbiome. Microbiome labs, they use the entire human genome to assess the stool study. And even though it is not considered a diagnostic test, it is giving me so much information that indirectly I can put the puzzle piece together like it's shown here, putting the puzzle pieces together to figure out what's going on in the gut, and then tailor the treatment according to what you need. So if it is a matter of that probiotic not getting to where it's supposed to be, because most probiotics are actually postbiotics, and they need to survive the stomach acidity in order to get to the intestine. So I always prefer a spore probiotic because spore is actually preventing that stomach acid from digesting the capsule, and it's releasing the contents once it gets to the intestine where it's supposed to be, and repopulating the gut flora with the beneficial strains of the gut microbiome that are currently lacking in your system. But I'm not going to know which type are lacking, if at all, unless I do a stool study.
Yeah, that was a really good explanation of like why getting a bigger picture, never just like blanket statement saying anything for
Right.
one person. And I'll also add that I've seen like in my own experience in working with clients that if you have leaky gut and if your body is really inflamed and toxic, a lot of times things like throwing a lot of probiotics at it can cause more issues because your body's not prepared for that. And sometimes the probiotics and supplements that you're taking can actually go undigested into the bloodstream if your gut's not sealed properly. And so what we have like through our protocol is Biomedic, it just has lactospore or lactobacillus, which is a soil-based probiotic, which is really important. It has a prebiotic. So it's not like 8 or 9 different things. It's just really keeping it simple. And our approach is more about introducing whole foods that have a lot of pre and probiotics naturally so that your body can start to absorb and assimilate those foods and start to repair the gut in a way that is a little bit more natural than just taking a bunch of isolate probiotics.
And prebiotics are basically those non-digestible or actually soluble and insoluble fibers that are plant-based, that are fuel for your good bacteria in the gut. The good bacteria needs to produce those short chain fatty acids. And in order to produce that, they are stimulated by their own food, which is the plant-based food. So you can have onions and leeks and garlic, asparagus, bananas. Those are all natural prebiotics. But whether you're absorbing them, that's another story. If your stomach acid is not adequate, you can eat them. But if you're not absorbing them, those undigested food particles can go in the intestine and trigger loosening of that tight junction. Intestinal cells are supposed to be really tight together. Tight junctions become loose when they're bombarded by all kinds of undigested particles. So with loosening of those tight junctions, then your particles get in the bloodstream, and that trigger that overdrive reaction of the immune system, which now is preparing to create an autoimmune response. And that could be against your thyroid, your kidneys, your joints, your heart. So when we talk about leaky gut, we're talking about everything that is digestive that has led to that process of intestinal permeability. So it's not a simple answer.
Yeah, that was a beautiful explanation of leaky gut. Thank you.
Thank you, ladies. Very
You're
good.
welcome. Any other questions? No? All right. Well, I want to thank you for participating at our webinar, and I hope you have found it informative and hopefully gave you a few tidbits on what to do to eliminate chemical burden in our lifestyle. And I hope that you will join us for the next webinar. So stay tuned. I'll be announcing it on social media, on Facebook and Instagram, and probably on LinkedIn as well. You will receive a survey email. In the email, you will be completely anonymous, so feel free to tell us what you thought and what constructive criticism ideas that you may have so we can improve our future webinars. And if you want to reach us individually to discuss anything, please feel free to do so. Thank you so much. Have a good
Thank you.
evening. Bye-bye.